Alright, so here is where things get interesting. This is basic red phase. Well, not this video, but that's what this video is about. This time using Shadow of the Tomb Raider as the backdrop. So, yeah. Different game, same series as before, it'll be alright. Alright. So anyway. I'm not really gonna do the introduction again. I've already done it twice. If you wanna know shit, I guess I'll mention in the comments. If you have any questions, want me to elaborate on anything, put it in the comments. I'll either reply to it or I'll heart it. If I heart it, it means I'm gonna make a separate video for it. There you go. That's all there is. Now let's get on with the actual basic. So as I mentioned last time, we had our heads in our laps as we were moving forward. Now, this bus ride lasted a while. Now, the bus was going for a while, it stopped. When it stopped, I looked around, left and right, to see if anybody else still, other people still have their heads in their laps. I noticed that some other people were starting to lift up their heads. So I went ahead and I lifted up mine up too. Throughout the ride, there was a drill sergeant on the bus, and he was kind of making sure that we all had our heads down and shit. When I lifted my head back up, I saw no drill sergeant. Nothing. The doors opened up though, and I looked to my right, and there was this weird build, and there was just this field. Well, it wasn't a field. I don't know how to describe this, but it was the beginning of the facility where we would be a basic at. As in, we were there. A drill sergeant, one of whom, I don't remember which one it was, but a drill sergeant walked up on the bus, and he said one of these two things. He either said, "Get the fuck off my bus," or he said, "Get off my fucking bus." He probably said, "Get off my fucking bus." He didn't yell it, but he said it very aggressively. Like, very aggressively. Like, it was the kind of thing where it's like, you don't want to fuck with this guy. So what happens is, a bunch of people in front of me, I was sat more towards the back of the bus. Not the very back, but more towards the back. The people in front of me started standing up and getting off the bus. So I stood up and I started following off the bus with everybody else. One thing I didn't notice, until I was getting off the bus, one thing I didn't notice is that people were running as soon as they got off the bus. And like I said in the reception video, PT wasn't allowed there, and running was part of PT. So I was used to seeing people walk everywhere they went. Now all of a sudden everybody's running, sprinting even. I was like, holy shit. So as soon as I touched the sidewalk, I jumped off the stairs. You know how buses have the steps? I jumped off those steps and I started sprinting. Like, people were running as fast as they could, as hard as they could. And there were drill sergeants to the left and right of me. We were all running down this sidewalk type deal. We passed... Actually, no, we didn't pass that, no. We arrived at a building, and then there was this little, like, how do I explain this? I don't know if I'm going to do it. One thing I might actually do is I might actually draw, like, a small map. A crude drawing of a small map of the general area, of, like, an over-the-top view of what this place looked like. So that way you can kind of get a sense of it. So I wouldn't have to describe it, but I'll describe it a little bit. If I draw a map and insert, if I insert, I'll insert it right here. I don't know if I inserted it or not, but there we go. But so, now the way the facility overall looked is that there was a sidewalk, And well, it wasn't really a sidewalk. It was like a big concrete pathway, more like a sidewalk wouldn't be the right way to word it. And it went all the way down to the other side of this facility place. And there were a bunch of buildings in between. Mostly on the left, one was on the right. At the far end of the right, there was one building. It was actually the DFAC. On the left were a bunch of company buildings. There was Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta. We reached Delta first, and then Charlie, Bravo, and Alpha were, farther along. I was actually in Delta Company, so we didn't pass by any buildings. We stopped at the first one. On the right, as I said, the far right was the DFAC. So on the rest of the right was like a bunch of exercise equipment, I guess. Yeah, it was like certain little fields of exercise equipment. Just, imagine physical stuff like monkey bars and, shit like that. Physical training stuff. Now, the way the overall company building looked is that it was, so imagine this. So, from the main pathway, there was, shit, I gotta make this drawing, I can't describe this shit. But there was a diamond-like little grassy place, and then there were 3 kind of floors to this building. The building was an L shape, and there were 3 floors. The first floor wasn't even an actual floor, it was like an awning type deal, like, I'll explain this. Okay, the first floor was not actually part of the building. It was underneath the building. Then there were 3 staircases, and then one in the middle, one at each end. In between the staircases, there were 2 floors of actual building. And these floors were just the bay areas for the company. There were 4 platoons in our Delta company. There was 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, right? So it wasn't like in reception where I was part of platoon 6-3. I was part of 2nd platoon of Delta company. I believe the 2nd battalion. I don't know what the hell the brigade was called, but it was 2nd battalion, Delta company, 2nd platoon. That's what I was a part of. And there were, on the first floor, that's actually not part of the building, what's that? Okay, so what's on the first floor, most of it is outside. The part that's below the bay areas were outside. I hope I'm making sense here. I'm trying my best. Now, below the parts where the staircases would be, there were little doors. Some of them were where drill sergeants would enter. One of them was an actual arms room. And then aside from that, there were phones and shit. Now, there were also columns. And the columns separated where the platoons would go. Because the platoons would gather underneath the actual bay area places on what you might refer to as the first floor. That was actually outside. That's where the platoons gathered. Left to right, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th platoons. Now, the bay areas were not designated that way. The drill sergeants had their own staircase. All the males had their own staircase. All the females had their own staircase. And don't give me any shit about calling them males and females, because that's what the fuck we call them. That was the official fucking nomenclature. If you called people men and women, you would get into deep shit. The nomenclature was male and female. So don't give me shit about using that shit. Because I know that some people, for some reason, have this hard-on for hating on the terms male and female, which is fucking stupid. That's what the fuck they're called. Anyway. So the bay area that we were on was on the 2nd floor to the right side of the L. If I make the drawing, I'll even insert it right here. There we go. I should probably make the drawing. Anyway, that's kind of describing the place to you. Let me describe the actual stuff now. So we went to the left, and I saw a bunch of, and by the way, one thing too, there wasn't 100 or more people per platoon. There were about 60 to 65 people. My platoon had about 60 people when we started out. We go into this diamond place on the left. We're all running in place, like hardcore, running in place. Um, and we meet up. All the drill sergeants in the company are there, and the first sergeant and commander were also there. They're the command team. Um, this is actually only one of 3 times I ever saw the commander. The commander was I'll even mention names. It doesn't really matter. The commander was Captain Kenner. The first sergeant was First Sergeant Dial. The only person's name I'm not going to mention is mine. I'm not going to mention my real name in this. Because I don't want to mention it. All you need to know me as is Flitch, or Mr. Flitch. So, First Sergeant Dial gives his speech while we're all running in place. And then he kind of bounces out. And so what happens from there is, the buses are still there. We go to get all our shit off the buses, and then they make us do a bunch of shit with them, putting them in place, taking them back and forth, some other bullshit, doing some other exercises and shit. Immediately. This is day 0, as soon as the fuck we get there. Now, one thing that happens... So, we end up going into formation, and by the way, so like, because of reception, we already knew how to go into formation, because you learn that shit in reception. So we got into formation, and now I had 3 drill sergeants. Primary drill sergeant was Drill Sergeant Parrish. She was a short black woman, and she was so short that even with her drill sergeant hat on, if I were to raise my arm, just to be, like, not raise it, but like to make it kind of like on level with my shoulder, with her hat on, she would pass underneath me still, standing upright. And if you know drill sergeant hats, you know those things aren't exactly small. Those things are pretty tall. So she was short. But she was still terrifying. I cannot stress enough. She was short. She was terrifying, though. Holy shit. Secondary one was Drill Sergeant Core. Tertiary was Drill Sergeant Ventura. Now, Drill Sergeant Core starts taking roll call. Yes, they do. Yes, they call roll call, at least from time to time in basic. He's calling roll call, and the way he ended up doing it was, you know, he would call your name, Private so-and-so, you'd yell out, "Here, Drill Sergeant," because that's how we did it. There was no sir, yes sir, that's the fucking Marine Corps. It was yes Drill Sergeant or no Drill Sergeant, or during roll call, it was here Drill Sergeant. Now, before I continue with this roll call, I want to mention something. Because this roll call is important. One way you know if you're sliding by, doing the right thing. Now, you're going to get fucked with no matter what, because that's just part of the experience. But you know you're doing a good job if by the middle and end of the cycle, and the cycle is just the entire experience. Basic is about 9 weeks. And it's divided into 4 phases. First 3 weeks are red phase, which is what this video is mainly about. Second 3 weeks is white phase. The next 2 weeks after that is blue phase. And the very last week is red, white, and blue phase. And you get different privileges with each one. So I'll give you an example. So like, the normal shit that you would associate with basic, you know, people getting all up in your face, yelling at you, cussing at you, like Full Metal Jacket style, that happens, but that's mostly relegated to red phase. Like, white and blue phase, that doesn't happen so much. And, you know, it gets different. What people think of when they think of basic training is mostly associated only with red phase. Now, if you're like in white and especially blue phase, and the drill sergeants don't know your name, then you know you've been doing a good job. I, on the other hand, have been cursed. Why do I say I've been cursed? Well, I have a very peculiar last name. I'm not going to mention what my last name is. As I said, I'm not going to use a real name. But this particular thing I'm about to tell you involves my name. So for the sake of this situation, let's just say my last name is Patriot. My last name is not Patriot, it's just a stand-in. But it will serve the situation the exact same way, because the context for my last name being Patriot works the same way that my actual last name did back when this actually happened. So we're doing roll call. He's mentioning people's name, you know, Private this, Private that. Yeah, here, Drill Sergeant, here, Drill Sergeant. He goes, Private Patriot. Oh, and I want you to know, okay, I want you to, now, for everything that's about to happen here, the story I'm about to tell you, there are 2 lines that are going to be verbatim, and I'll mention what those are afterwards. This conversation didn't happen verbatim except for those 2 lines, but the general theme of what happened did happen. He goes, "Private Patriot." I go, "Here, drill sergeant." He says again, "Private Patriot." I'm kind of weirded out, but I'm like, okay. "Here, drill sergeant." There's a pause. Again, "Private Patriot." "Here, drill sergeant." I'm like, is this guy? At this point, I'm starting to get weirded out. Like, what? Like, does he not hear me? Like, what the fuck's going on? So what he does is he goes, "Private fucking Patriot." At this point, I yell at the top of my lungs, "Here, drill sergeant!" And yes, I did. When I was yelling, I did elongate the int in the word sergeant. I did go, "Sergeant!" Like, just like that. And I couldn't help but think to myself, what the fuck's going on? I got nervous, though, because I was like, oh shit, I'm about to get fucked with. Drill sergeant goes, "Which one of you motherfuckers is Private fucking Patriot?" And by the way, I'm trying to be as authentic as possible. Like, as I said, these sentences aren't verbatim, but the general theme and the way I talk, the way things are said, is the way they were said back then. Who the fuck is which one of you motherfuckers is Private fucking Patriot? I go, "Right here, drill sergeant." What Drill Sergeant Core does, and Drill Sergeant Parrish is there, Drill Sergeant Ventura isn't yet. I didn't see Drill Sergeant Ventura until a few days in, so I only see the first 2 right here. But Drill Sergeant Core is the one who does all this shit. Drill Sergeant Core parts the sea. Oh yeah, what does parting the sea mean? Imagine you're in line, and there are 10 people in line, and somebody of authority wants to walk through the line. Well, let's say the 5th and 6th people in that line, they kind of move over to create a kind of hole in the line, a gap in the line, so that way the person can walk through. Well, that's parting the sea. Now imagine it in line with the whole platoon, so the whole platoon kind of made a gap for the drill sergeant. He parted the sea. And he went directly to me, got right up in my face. I am the first person in the platoon who was fucked with. In fact, I'm willing to wager, not only was I the first person in the platoon, I'm willing to wager, I was the first person in the company to be fucked with. Like, so anyway, he gets all up in my face. He goes, "Fucking Private, your name is fucking, you're fucking Private fucking Patriot?" I go, "Yes, drill." Oh, actually, no, I skipped one part. And this is the part that actually happened. Before he parted the sea, first, when I said, "Here, drill sergeant," before he parted the sea, he pointed at me. He went, "Holy fucking shit, Private, your name is fucking Patriot?" And I'm like, "Yes, drill sergeant." After that is when he parts the sea and goes to my face. I want to point that I skipped that part by mistake. That's a very important part of this, to me at least. And after that, he's like, so he starts going, "Private, your name is fucking Patriot?" "Yes, drill sergeant." "Oh, that's a pretty fucking patriotic ass fucking name there." "Yes, drill sergeant." "Tell me, Private, are you a fucking patriotic ass motherfucker?" "Yes, drill sergeant." "Are you fucking sure you're a fucking patriotic ass motherfucker, Private? I'm not fucking sure if I fucking believe you." And I didn't, and at part of this, I did hesitate. At part of this too, I was like, "What? Do you not know if you're fucking patriotic or not? You fucking motherfucker." "Yes, drill sergeant, I'm fucking patriotic." Did you just fucking curse at me?" And this kind of shit did happen too. "Did you just fucking curse at me, fucking Private?" "No, drill sergeant." "Then what the fuck were you saying to me?" "I don't know." And it went on and on like this too, being patriotic. And it went back and forth like that for a little bit, and then eventually he went in and said, "You know what, Private? I don't fucking believe that you're a fucking patriotic ass motherfucker. And since I don't fucking believe you're a fucking patriotic ass fucking motherfucker, you don't deserve the fucking name of fucking Patriot, because that fucking name sounds fucking patriotic as fuck. So what you're gonna do, Private, is I'm not gonna fucking call you the fucking name fucking Patriot, because you don't deserve that fucking name. You want the fucking name Patriot? You're gonna have to fucking earn that fucking name. So here's the fucking deal, fucking Private. From now on, your name is Private Fuckhead. Do you get that, Private? Yes, Drill Sergeant. Do you fucking understand that shit? Yes, Drill Sergeant. Do you fucking like that name, Private Fuckhead? Yes, Drill Sergeant. Good. Well, guess what though, Private? You're gonna have to earn the fucking name Patriot. So, and at this point, he walks back forward, and the conversation did really happen. The conversation did happen just like that. And my name, and I did get the nickname Private Fuckhead. That's what the drill sergeants called me all the way up until Blue Phase. But we'll get to that when we get to that. So, drill sergeant sits there. He kind of walks back. The seat closes, and he announces this to the whole platoon. He goes, Private Fuckhead here has to earn his fucking name a fucking Patriot. So guess the fuck what that means for the rest of you motherfuckers. It means that all you motherfuckers are gonna fucking help Private Patriot earn his fucking name. And you're gonna fucking help him earn that fucking name time fucking now. Half right phrase, friendly message, move. 1, 2, 3, up, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2. And that's referring to push-ups. So, yep. Needless to say, the whole fucking company got fucked straight from the get-go because of me, because of my last name. Now, granted, he would have found something to fuck with somebody about at some point or another. That's just the nature of Basic. But I was the perfect tool to use. So, remember how I said you know that you're flying high, doing well if the drill sergeants don't know your name in white and blue phase, and well, guess the fuck what? The drill sergeants knew my fucking name by day fucking 0, and they didn't forget it either. Now, as I said, the theme of the way that kind of whole exchange went was in that general way. There were 2 lines though that did happen verbatim. First one was the one where he went, "Holy fucking shit, Private! That's your name." He said that verbatim. The other part was when he went, "Tell me, Private, are you a fucking patriotic ass motherfucker?" That sentence did also happen verbatim. He said those words. Because I remember it to this day. From how hardcore intense it was at the time. And so let's just say that there are some people, honestly, who genuinely didn't like me because of that. And it's like, how the fuck is that my fault? I don't choose my fucking last name. And if you know my actual last name, you will fully understand how that still makes sense, even with the fake last name of Patriot. Now, before I go any further with the actual red phase, one thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to get out of the way a few things. And these few things go for all of Basic, the whole way through. They apply to all 9 weeks. The first one I'll talk about 3 things. The first thing I'm going to talk about was my platoon. My platoon, because now throughout this, I'll tell you some stuff about some of the people who were in my platoon, just to give it some more, personality. That way it's not just me going through an ordeal. That way, it feels like a group effort. Is the people there. So I'll tell you about some of them. We all got divided into our own little cliques. Yep, my platoon actually had our own little cliques. Now, there were 4 major cliques. Clique number 1, which is this is the one I was a part of, was a group of people where we wanted to do the right thing. We wanted to be high speed as fuck. High speed basically means you're doing your job and shit. And you wanted to pass and just do the right thing. Clique number 2, they wanted to pass by, but they wanted to do it under the radar. My clique wanted to go above and beyond. Clique number 2 wanted to kind of fly under the radar. Clique number 3 were the shitbags. Shitbags meaning they're pieces of shit. Pieces of shit meaning they don't give a fuck about anything but themselves. They're assholes basically, and they make life for the rest of us a living hell. I'll tell you one thing. The trouble in basic is not entirely predicated around the drill sergeant. It's also predicated around the people you're actually in the cycle with, because they can fuck you over hardcore style, like Jesus. That's what click 3 was. So what was click number 4? You may be wondering. Well, I don't want to get racial with this, but click number 4 was racial. With the exception of one black guy, because there was one black guy who was in click number 2 where he wanted to do the right thing, but he wanted to fly under the radar. Every single black guy in my platoon, and by the way, all the cliques here, by the way, are composed entirely of the Bay Area. All the females had their own Bay Area, so these cliques don't apply to them. And these cliques really only matter for the most part in the Bay Area as well. But all the black guys were in their own clique. And that's pretty much all there was. It was the black guys. Why they wanted to have their own clique, why it went that way, I don't know, but that's just what it was. With the exception of one black guy, they all had their own clique. So, another thing to talk about for the entirety of it. There are two things you feel throughout the entirety of basic. The first one is you feel tired. All the time. And when I say tired, I don't mean like you're ready to go to bed. I mean like, even if you're standing up, if you're not actively doing something, you'll fall asleep in 5 seconds. You'll fucking hit the ground, and hitting the ground won't wake you the fuck up. Like, you're fucking... I'll tell you this. Basic is the most tired I've ever been in my life. Like, as I mentioned, for about a week in initial reception, we got 3 hours of sleep a night. In basic, you actually get 8 hours, because lights out is 2100, and then wake up time is 0500. Here's the thing though, that 8 hours doesn't mean shit. And it doesn't mean shit for two reasons. One, because you're already sleep deprived to hell. So while 8 hours may be the fully recommended time, it doesn't mean shit when you've already been sleep deprived to hell for a week. Not only that, but also, we were doing strenuous physical activity pretty much all day, every day. So, when you combine the already lack of sleep with that physical schedule, but then you still get 8 hours of sleep, that 8 hours of sleep doesn't mean shit. You're still tired all the time. Something I forgot to mention initially that ties directly into the sleep, and that also applies even to reception. It's happened in reception too, despite the fact that we only got 3 hours of sleep a night. Except we don't have to clean at that point. There's this thing called Fire Guard. What Fire Guard is you stay up all night washing over shit, and in basic, there's also a cleaning schedule. Each hour has its own shit to clean. And believe me, that cleaning takes pretty much the whole hour, or damn near most of it, so you don't really have time to do much else. And then the Fire Guard really sucks, because you already get only as much sleep as you do as it is, and so having to lose an hour of sleep really blows. The best time to get Fire Guard was always either the first hour from 21 to 2200 or the last hour from 0400 to 0500. Did I ever get either one of those times? No. I always got it usually pretty much in the middle of the fucking night. The closest I got was an hour that was 0300 to 0400, so I got 1 more hour of sleep. Now the only silver lining there is that you're always so goddamn tired that even despite the fact that you wake up for an hour, you put your head back on that pillow in that bunk, you go right back to sleep in 2 fucking seconds. So you miss an hour of sleep, which really sucks, but yeah, so that's kind of what Fire Guard is in a nutshell. I just kind of forgot to mention it, so, but yeah, that's Fire Guard. You wake up for an hour, do some shit, clean some shit, and then you wake up the next people who are in line. So there you go, it's Fire Guard. The only thing I'll mention other than that is that, and this is important later on in White Phase, is that it's one of the duties for the last people in charge of Fire Guard to empty out the trash, for the 04-0500 hour. That's one thing I'll mention there. It's also a duty in the middle of the night to get ice, and I did get that duty one time to get ice, and I got it with one guy who claimed his father was Keith Sweat. I may go into more detail on that later on, but we'll see. Anyway, back to the actual main part of the video now. And then the second one is you always feel hungry. And I mean always. There are 3 types of ways you eat in basic. One is going to the DFAC. The other one is hot A's. Hot A's is basically like takeout. Like imagine if you want to get takeout from a restaurant, hot A's is the DFAC food coming to you. That's what it is. And it sucks, honestly. The hot A's always suck. I'm telling you that right now. Always, forever. Like, like everything, like, it's all bland, and you get Kool-Aid with it, but the Kool-Aid has no flavor. Because what they do is they put water in it in order to make more of it, and it dilutes the flavor to the point where it's basically colored water. But it's still red. It was always red Kool-Aid too, but it tasted like water. Like, you know. Now, let me tell you a little bit about how the DFAC actually worked when you went there, right? So the way the DFAC actually handled things, it wasn't quite like reception. There wasn't long lines and shit. But what ended up happening was you filed in. Now, in reception, you could just walk normally. You didn't have to go any positions like that. You just walk in, eat, leave. Like I mentioned it before. With basic, it was different. When you're in line, you have to do these positions all the time. When you're standing, you go into parade rest. If you want to know what I'm talking about, Google it. Google image it, whatever you want to do, right? You go into parade rest. When the line moves, you assume the position of attention, and then you march forward, stop, and then parade rest again. That's how it goes up until the point where you get into the actual DFAC and you're kind of like in the line to actually get your meal. And one thing about basic too, speaking of positions, there's no such thing as normally walking or, you know, just casually just going around. It doesn't happen. All the time, like I mean on a constant basis, you're doing these positions at ease, parade rest, attention, and you march everywhere you go at all times. There's nothing casual about it. And honestly, like what it does too, it changes the way you walk too. Like it changed the way I walk. I used to take long strides because I've been told I have long legs. I don't do that anymore. I take short strides now. You know, just because marching is done in shorter strides, so that's just how I naturally walk now. And then once you actually get in there, you get your tray and all that. What happens is, I don't know why they do this. You have to sidestep. You can't just walk forward or march forward. You sidestep the whole time. And then when you get to what you might want, you have the freedom to choose what you want that's there, by the way. Like, there's not one thing on the menu. If there's something there, like you don't get a menu, but like, you know, when you can see shit, you have to sidestep, you have to look straight forward all times. So if you want to actually see what they're giving out, you have to look down with your eyes only. Now, lunch and dinner always kind of sucked, but breakfast was always pretty good. So I'll use breakfast as an example here, because that was always pretty good. So let's say they have, I don't know, I usually got pancakes or scrambled eggs, either one, because they were both quick to eat. And then there'd be, I don't know, maybe fucking hash browns or, I don't know, tater tots. Take your fucking pick. So you get all that shit. Oh, and by the way, also, you can't use a fork or a knife. And it does not matter what you're eating. You use a goddamn spoon. If you got something that normally you would take apart with a fork or a knife, guess what? You're using a fucking spoon. Why they do that, I honestly don't know, but you're using a fucking spoon. That's all you're gonna fucking use. Like there's not even forks and knives available to use at all. It's just spoons. At the very end of it, you can pick up, there's these little things you can kind of pick up, like raisins and whatnot. I would always pick up nuts. I would put some nuts in my tray. And by the way, when you do this, you're still having to look forward the whole time. And I would pick up this like bisexual purple yogurt. Bisexual purple means pink. Fuck you. I picked up some pink yogurt, probably cherry flavors. Like, I don't know, I wasn't paying attention. And then I also put that on my thing. Then you'd grab a cup, and I don't know what it was. You know, when I was there at the time, I actually made it a point to remember what this drink was, but I forget it now. But it was this blue drink, and I'll tell you what, I loved that blue drink. Now, I don't know if that blue drink actually tasted good, and the reason why is because, like, well, I'll explain in a minute. Now, like, once you get all your stuff, you can march forward. You don't have to sidestep anymore. You stand, like, in front of a table, And there's no choosing your table. Like, people line up at a table. Once the table is complete with people standing over it, the drill sergeant will give you the mark to go ahead and sit down. You sit down as fast as you fucking can, and then you're still having to look straight forward the whole time. So on day 0, I fucked up because I could barely see what I was doing. Starting day 1, what I would do is I would purposefully put my tray pretty far away from me in front. That way I could look down without straining my eyes and see what with my eyes only, without straining them, and see what was on the goddamn tray. That way I could see what I was doing. Now, in red phase especially, you only had 2 minutes to eat, and the drill sergeants timed it too. Once those 2 minutes are done, you're up. So most of the shit that you would get was bland as fuck, because I mean, honestly, you didn't really have time to taste it anyway. There were 2 things though, for breakfast in particular, I loved. What I would do is I would take that pink yogurt and I would mix it in with the nuts, and it created this delicious concoction, and I loved it. And that would always be the last thing I ate, and then the very last thing I would do, I would drink half the drink while I was eating, and then for the second half of the blue drink, I would just chug the whole thing down. And I will say right now, the first 4 days, including day 0, so day 0 through 3, those first 4 days, I didn't get to finish my meals in the DFAC because the 2 minutes ended before I could. It wasn't until day 4 that I actually was able to finish a meal for the first time, because like you have to be unbelievably fast, and it's not, and like it's a matter of you have to learn to chew fast and everything. Like, holy shit. It's difficult trying to do that, like, holy shit. Like, your stomach feels weird afterwards when you eat that goddamn fast. Especially prior to that point, I can tell you, I sure as shit wasn't used to eating that goddamn fast. But that's how that worked though. Hot A's is kind of a similar story. MREs are different. MREs, we always had actually extra time. It wasn't time like 2 minutes. We always had, I'm going to say probably about 10 minutes to eat MREs. Because we always had MREs during training times. Thing about MREs is that it really sucks when you had to have those things. And the reason why it sucks is because they might have stuff like Skittles or M&Ms or pound cakes or dairy powder. And what dairy powder is you mix it in with water and it creates like a sort of milkshake. But we weren't allowed to have those things. We were told outright we weren't allowed to have stuff like that. And so it really sucked because, like, in a single thing, right, you may have, let's say, there was also coffee packets, but I didn't care for those anyway. You could have, let's say, a pound cake and a packet of Skittles in there. And yet you couldn't eat them. What they would have us do is they would have us take those little sweet things out and then put them in a separate box. And then what they would do is they would take those things out of the box and they would eat them in front of us just to be assholes. Now, here's the thing though, it wasn't so much the fact, having to not eat part of the MRE, it wasn't so much the fact that we weren't able to eat Skittles and pound cakes, all the good shit. That wasn't even the point of it. The main thing that really sucked is because you're really hungry all the time. I mean, like it doesn't matter. Like you could have just gotten done eating, you're still hungry as fuck. Always and forever. In that over there. But so you're staring at, let's say, a packet of Skittles and pound cake. You've already eaten everything else. Well, at that point, you wouldn't be staring at it because you would have put it in the other box immediately. But like, it really sucks though, because like you open it up, you see the pound cake and the Skittles, and you're just like, fuck, I'm hungry, but I can't eat it. God damn it. We weren't able to eat that stuff like that. We were able to eat that kind of stuff starting phase blue, or blue phase. Red and white phase, we weren't allowed to do that. That's the end of part 1. See you part 2.